Hello everyone, my name is Kian Bridger, and today I'll be presenting to you my third project for Design Studio 1, the iPad stand for long-term care facilities. The following document demonstrates the evolution and realization of an iPad holder, which was specifically designed for long-term care residents and healthcare providers. It provides a step-by-step description of the design decisions that were taken. So these decisions were mainly influenced by the users, which were both the healthcare providers and the residents of the Mountains and Meadows facility. Since the COVID-19 lockdown, many long-term care facilities have had to find alternative ways for their residents to communicate with their relatives. So these conversations would happen via Skype thanks to the use of an iPad. Now, because of this inclusion of new technologies, a lot of issues have arisen. So the main concern for the residents and for the healthcare providers concern the holding of the iPad. Many find themselves very tired at the end of a 20-minute chat with their relatives. So the goal of this project is to create an easily and cheaply produced stand for iPad users. Ideally, this stand would have an adjustable viewing angle for easy use and would be collapsible for easy storage. So I started this project by doing some research and found a few articles that could direct my development. So the first one concerned vision problems and how many tend to rely on their tactile abilities when they lose their vision. The second was about wheelchairs and how seniors tend to lose their range of motion as they get older. The last one was about healthy living and talked about some main habits that people could maintain in order to keep their health in a late age. I then did my product survey to understand more what iPad holders look like and found that many of them had adjustable viewing angles and heights. I also did my spaces survey because I found that the Mountains and Meadows presentation didn't give enough insight into what their residents' rooms looked like. So I found out more there, and I did my research for technology, and I found that it wasn't only metal that could be laser cut, but also wood. Moving into the AEIOU worksheets, I found that the resident often had to reach a certain position before being able to make the call, and that the caregiver was often the one who had to hold the iPad and sit there while the resident was actually in their Skype call with their family members. So this is also something that I learned from the Mountains and Meadows presentation. I understood how difficult it could be to hold the iPad upright for the duration of the call. A residence environment seems pretty cozy. From my spaces survey and from the presentation, I began to understand what it looked like and created a mental image of it. It seemed pretty small, but they had all the basics, bathroom, bedroom, a chair, and a desk from what I understood. From the interactions worksheet, I began to understand how much assistance the residents actually needed and decided to direct my design development towards something that was freestanding and that the user could easily adjust on their own. In the objects worksheet, I realized how much support elderly people in a wheelchair actually need, since there are so many objects that can be associated with them. They often need a blanket, they often have an oxygen tank, or a cane, or a walker, or even sometimes, in the worst cases, an IV bag that's always walking around with them. For the users worksheet, I decided to include some photos of some of the residents at the Mountains and Meadows facility, and I wanted also to mention that as they are the main users, there are also other users to consider, such as the healthcare providers and the people on the other end of the call, as we want to make this experience as enjoyable for all three groups. For my ideation worksheets, I provided three different solutions for each category. The first one being the wheelchair solution. So I didn't feel that this solution was quite good enough, as for the top right image, the user would feel trapped in their wheelchair, and the clipping motion is just not quite good enough, as I feel like it wouldn't be strong enough. The table offered many solution possibilities. I found that it was quite versatile, but ultimately less interesting to explore than the bedside worksheets. So the bedside worksheets were a bit more complicated, a bit more idealist kind of solutions, um, but I decided to reduce the form down a little bit and go with something a bit more simplistic that would ultimately provide the same results. From the bottom right sketch of my ideation worksheet, I decided to develop a physical mock-up. So this mock-up was made out of PVC piping and piping insulation. So I developed a form that could be hung upside down, could be stood right side up, or adjusted according to the level of the ground. It only had 5 components, which I thought was quite successful and only cost me approximately $15 to produce. In my refinement sketches, I started to develop something that had an adjustable height and viewing angle to improve the user's experience. I then created a physical mock-up of this product. So this component was made out of metal, which is quite difficult to cut, but I figured that if it was laser cut, then it could be much more precise and less difficult to create. The only issue with this piece, this component, was that it didn't support the versatility of the stand itself, so it couldn't be used upside down, for example. The piece would have to be disconnected and remounted, so I decided to further my sketches. So based on the last mock-up, I decided to develop some final sketches. This final component had two sides, two brackets, one on the bottom and one on the top, to support the versatility of the stand itself, so it could be used upside down and right side up. It also had a pin in the backside to adjust the height of the viewing angle. From these final sketches, I finally developed a 3D model in Fusion, and this model became the Rhoda stand. So the Rhoda stand is an iPad stand designed for long-term living facilities. It's easily maneuverable and can be installed on multiple surfaces thanks to its slip-proof feet. The iPad can also be installed vertically or horizontally based on the user's preference, and the height and angle of the viewing can be easily adjusted by the user. In order for this product to be used correctly, the caregiver must bring the stand to the resident, and then either of the two can unfold the stand and set it up on a surface. The iPad can then be inserted onto the stand, and the resident may adjust the height and the viewing angle to their preferences. Looking back on the design, I now realize that the support itself, the adjustable component, could still be improved, as it only supports iPads with a height of 25 centimeters or less, and therefore once the iPad has a case on it or is an iPad from an older generation, it might not work with the stand. So instead of making a double-sided bracket, maybe a single bracket that can be adjusted 180 degrees and rotate to support upside down and right side up angles. Thank you for listening. Happy holidays.